As soon as you leave home, you start to find out about what your local government does. Footpaths, roads, libraries, swimming pools, community art projects, local land planning, Meals on Wheels, childcare, support for young people and rubbish and recycling collection are all part of what local council is responsible for. As women, we use and understand more of these services due to our caring roles, so why not have more of a say? In this film, we're going to look at how to get involved in local government. What about standing as a candidate and possibly getting elected as a councillor? You could make a difference to the community you live in. Even if you don't get elected, standing as a candidate gives some amazing leadership experience and a profile to the issues you care about. So why get involved in local government? There are 3 key messages about standing as a candidate. It's a great way to expand your influence for what you care about. You are the one in the best position to decide how you will judge your own success. You can climb the mountain step by step.
I wanted to run so that the council provided services that reflected the whole community and not just one community or the other community. I think that I was passionate about bringing people together.
Well, I wanted to make some changes, I guess, in local council, local government.
As an Indigenous sports person, you know, from the time 1993 when I first represented Australia, every time I'd come back home, there were all these questions always asked, you know, about Indigenous affairs and all that sort of stuff, and health and education and youth. So it wasn't unfamiliar territory for me to, you know, be in front of a camera or be talking about issues that I still talk about here in the White House on the Hill.
In the levels of politics, which level really affects us as people, just general community people on the ground? And I have to say that it was local government.
It's that whole thing of local government's the sort of closest government to the people on the ground. And at the time I thought not a lot was happening with councils working with their local Aboriginal community, and so I saw that opportunity to try and bridge that gap and have more effective working relationships with communities and organisations.
In local government today, you've got the opportunity to have a good say for your family and your community and the people who come after.
People need to understand what's happened in the past in order to move forward. I surround myself by my history because my history has put me here today.
Because Aboriginal people will generally live in their on their country for a very long time, so they have all that history and knowledge of their local area for starters.
It's really just catering for community needs, and that's what we're good at. That's in our culture, it's in our makeup as Aboriginal women, is to cater for our family and community needs. So local council is no different. It's just on a bigger scale and looking after mainstream as well.
You had to think bigger than just our issues, but you had to look at, you know, issues that affect your neighbours and everybody else in the street and in your townships.
If Aboriginal women can actually get on council, they're showing to younger Aboriginal women that, hey, look what I've done. I could actually, you know, get here. Having that support from the community is really important, and then younger Aboriginal women can actually achieve and aspire to do that too.
I'm really concerned about climate change and that impact it has on our people, especially on our health and wellbeing.
As an Aboriginal person from 2 tribes who cared for the environment, I was in there. As later I was involved in opposing the Traveston Dam being built in Queensland.
I was quite young at the time when I decided to run, and the people who were standing didn't really have anything about young people in their promotional material.
There was a hell of a lot of suicide with farmers and young people in our community, both black and white, but mainly white, so I raised those issues. It was a big thing.
The farmers needed their roads done. They get done hardly ever, but they're the ones that pay the most rates. And I just saw an inequality between the Indigenous, the community, you know, where you lived as to whether you got a footpath.
Disability access, and because I've got a disability and I'm not going to get any better, but life needs to be made easier for people with disabilities.
For us to advance as a nation of people, we've got to be able to be on all these committees, forever doing that cultural awareness or cultural insight. You know, it's ongoing.
If you're going to do something like that, you make a commitment, you have to honour it and be really, really true to yourself and to the people who you hope to vote for you.
Standing for election, supporting a candidate or becoming a councillor are all fantastic ways of making your voice heard and making a difference. Candidacy is a valuable leadership experience and a great way to get to know your local council and wider community. You gain confidence in many areas such as meeting the community, media, fundraising, setting up a campaign team, understanding how the election system works, dealing with dirty tricks.
To get yourself prepared, I think you need to get involved in local council activities, and this is about the wider community, not just being Aboriginal. So, and people need to get past that too. So it's like, I want to make a difference at the local level in my community for everybody. And so you need to get involved with everybody.
Lobby the wider community more so than the Aboriginal community, because that's where your votes are.
I had a lot to do with regards to convincing people that I was worthy of representing them, and to actually talk about issues beyond Indigenous issues.
I didn't need to know anything to be a councillor. You don't have to hold a position or anything, but I made sure that I read the minutes of the meetings, the agendas and what was being tabled, what permits were being handed out, etc. And that way you had a sort of an understanding of what was going on in the council when you went to the meetings and what was happening in the community.
I think the role of councillor is one where you have to be in the community and understand what issues that are affecting the community and be respectful and have a better understanding of the area of your coverage.
I went to a few council meetings just to be in the public gallery and hear what people's concerns were.
When you run as a candidate, they have the sessions where it's for the candidates that are thinking of nominating to go. Definitely go to those too, because then you can scope who's thinking about running. You can see what support they've got.
Well, you've got to have a mentor or mentors, people that have been through the process themselves and know the ropes and all that sort of thing.
It is you yourself that is standing for election, and therefore you have to either get support or find the resources yourself to be able to assist you with your campaign. And it does cost money to do letter drops and printing to get yourself known out there and get on the media. So there are some challenges that come with it.
Being clear in what you're standing for is really, really important, and it must be relevant to the community and the council, and getting that support behind you. You must, do the door knocking, you must participate in public events. So it's not necessarily having the skills, it's having the time and the energy and the will to actually go out there and genuinely talk to people about what the issues are.
You have to give them that time. So I spent a lot of my time in the Hayward Baker shop. And people would come in, I'd just sit there and have cups of coffee. And they'd sit in there and they'd come in and sit there. Can I ever talk to you, Kent? Yes. So I was a voice of the wider community, very much so.
There's a lot of things I'm passionate about, and I've hit the ground running in so many areas, and it's good to be here. It's like every day I wake up not thinking negative, but it's being optimistic about, okay, what can I do to help others today?
It's about commitment. You have to really be committed, I think, to see out the 4-year term of local government.
Councillors don't need to be people who hold a degree or anything, because once you start saying, right, you've got to be a special sort of person to be on council, that's not what council was started for. And it's so that you still have that, council still has that connection to the community, because their people are part of the community that are on the council.
Knowing the right people who to link in with, that's the key. If you've got an issue and you may have people who are generally sympathetic with you and want to help you, but if they have got the key to unlock the door elsewhere, that's not going to happen.
So I want to be the best that I can possibly be, and you can't be that person if you don't have the knowledge of who you're representing and why you're doing this for. And while I'm in that space, I know why I'm here, and I have a lot of knowledge, and I pride myself on being a good person in terms of that I'm doing the right thing.
Some local councils, people who stand for council, are actually supported by Labor or Liberal in actually running, and that's, you know, highly political as well. So when I was actually standing as an independent, other people running would actually say, "Do you want to run on my ticket?" And I'd be like, "Oh no, I'm not showing what party I'm supporting. I'm standing myself as an independent. Oh no, you should, actually run with me because you'll have more chance to actually, get in." But it'd be, but I learnt that it's more of a chance for them to actually get in if you run that way. So I became politically savvy.
You are your own expert, and you're in the best position to define your own success. You will already have many personal assets when you begin, such as knowing your local community and the mainstream community, balance and common sense, imagination, integrity, and a sense of humour. When you're in local government, there are pros and cons.
I think that Aboriginal women or people who stand for local government should be encouraged to do so, because we bring a different voice and a different worldview to the things that affect us at a very local level, and I think that's really important.
I think it showed me how genuine people are about being involved in local government, particularly their local council, so at that local level, and that people really see local council as being important to their everyday life, especially where they're living. So the whole residential thing around, paying your rates and what council's responsible for and how you actually get involved in council activities. It made me more aware of what my rights were as a resident as well. So, having your own mortgage and knowing about your rates and your rubbish and all that is really important, but there's so much more that council can actually provide.
It's that type of argument you can have and make sure that you can have a voice in there, and I didn't let back. So I was very cheeky and very forward, not going overboard, but making sure that I had a voice and they heard my voice.
You're there for every single person, but you're also there for the river, for the lake, for the roadsides. I learnt, my God, how much tar do you need to have on a road to stop a pothole?
And it's just about that knowledge that you've got, that we've got as Aboriginal people, talking about water, footpaths, gutters.
As an Aboriginal person, you might be really fluent or understand what the Aboriginal issues are in a local community, but you also have to be respectful and have an understanding of all other people who live in your community as well. You have to have an understanding about how the rubbish is being affected on public holidays. You have to understand about, the licensings of dogs. You have to worry about roads and budgets, and you have to also worry about the concerns of the local people, because you are at the coalface where people have access to you.
The general challenges of people building in areas that, we wanted protected, but there was one man there who was quite racist towards me in a subtle way, but he was overruled by the others.
I felt as if, you're a black fella, so we're not going to take much notice of it. But I kept pushing for that 4 years, so I was heard.
When running for government is the people around you, some of them were genuinely supportive, but there were people who could sabotage your interest.
It is a big time commitment, and you need to be settled within yourself.
I know that if I'm not healthy on the inside, that's going to be a reflection of what I'm like on the outside. So I have to make time to exercise. My children, they're my heartbeat, and I have to make time for my children.
People generally like to support people that have been in the role for many years as well, so changing that attitude is a bit difficult. But I've actually seen over time now that people of other cultural backgrounds have actually been getting into council, which is great. So it's a bit more representative of the community, I think.
You do need to have really good support around you and have networks, but more importantly, people who will support you and your views on what you think is important in the community.
Selling yourself and saying how deadly you are is the hardest thing to do, because that's usually what we get shot down for when we do that amongst our own mob. You know, oh no, she thinks she's too deadly for us or whatever. So you actually have to, you have to be quite focused and resilient to combat some of that, because that's going to come at you as well.
Aboriginal women and men who have run campaigns of all kinds have some great advice. In your own communities and networks, you will find people who can be sources of wise advice and support, including in the mainstream community.
I don't believe that we've ceded our rights to this country, and we are First Nation people, so why not be seen?
There should be one Aboriginal that has a permanent seat on council, whether they're traditional owners or whether they're not. It's decisions about country, and we should be included.
You've got to back yourself, and the thing is, there's nothing great in life comes easy. You've got to work hard.
Don't sit down and think about it. Just make a decision and just make sure that you can go for it. And it will happen. It will happen for you.
Get out there and do it, and prove to the rest of the community that Aboriginal people have got the right to be on council.
And if you get knocked back, so what? It's good to have a go, because you go back again. And that's what all politicians do.
What I'd really like to see is more Aboriginal people actually standing for council, particularly Aboriginal women, because you can actually make better change at that leadership level.
Never just take what you are told in council as the truth. Learn it yourself.
You can do it. You live there, you know your mob, you can do it. Just run for council.
I think you have to smile a lot. I think that's the key. Don't have the grumpy face.
Be yourself. Don't try to fit into a mould.
I'd say follow your dream, because in every council there'll be something that will address your needs, and you'll find people who think the same way as you, as I did with the environmental groups.
It's an amazing thing to do, to be able to inspire and encourage people and put them on that right path.
At your local council, contact one of the councillors to find out more about getting involved. Go to a few council meetings and check out your council's website. Talk to VLGA about what's involved and where you can get more information about how to become a candidate. Call them on 9349 7999 or visit www.vlga.org.au.